Amen. The day my wife and I, Thine is my wife, the day that my wife and I got married 33 years ago, I was so nervous I couldn't tie a tie. We had chosen not to have tuxedos at our wedding. Instead, the men would wear their best suits. Now, I understand why they have tuxedos at weddings. It's because tuxedos have these little elastic, boingy things, rubber bandy kinds of ties, and you just put it over your head, and there it is. You don't have to tie a tie. I had to have my best man tie my tie for me at my wedding. You know, so often when we see the glory of God, when the glory of God comes upon us, and almost always it comes in the form reflected in some kind of beautiful moment in our lives, a moment when we are connected with family, when our loved ones are with us and things are going well. It might be a Christmas morning or an Easter afternoon, when our families of friends maybe will be with us, or if we don't have a spouse, maybe we are with aunts and uncles, cousins and nieces and nephews, all different kinds of families. And we see the glory of God when we are together and laughing, and there is joy and hope and love and integrity and peace. And those times, my experience of them is that they are a little bit fuzzy. They're a little bit like a dream. It's hard to be really precise about those times because there is something bigger than we are there, and someone infinitely bigger than we are there. That someone has a name. It's Jesus who is with us there. I remember on our wedding day, I don't remember much, but I do remember that the church was decked out in Christmas fashion because it was the Sunday after Christmas, and there was a Christmas tree over there, and there was a manger scene over there, and you could smell the evergreen in the room. I remember that Thine's friends from graduate school had come, and so we had folks of a variety of different kinds of faiths there. There was Blair, whose family was Orthodox Jewish, and there was Sudha, who was Hindu, and a great variety of different humanists, and then various kinds of Christians as well, including, of course, Bruce Christensen, who was a good old-fashioned Minnesota Lutheran. I remember me and my friends, the guys, were standing outside in the narthex getting ready to process in, and the prelude was going, and everything was ready to start, and my friend Dan, who died here this last February, says, "Wouldn't it be funny if Jesus came back right now?" And, no, Dan, no, it wouldn't be funny. Not after all the work we put into this wedding. No, Jesus can come back after the dinner. Maybe that's why Jesus is taking so long, because everybody keeps getting married. I don't know. Anyway, the pastor talked about light. I couldn't tell you what he said. And she was beautiful. Beautiful. Still is. Things are like a dream when we get to glimpse the glory of God. In the gospel lesson for today, Mary Magdalene comes to the tomb. And she is right in the middle of the last and the greatest sign in the Gospel of John, the miracles Jesus does to show us God's glory, to show us what God is like. She is right in the middle of it, in the middle of the crucifixion and resurrection and ascension. They're all mushed into one thing in the Gospel of John, and she does not know what's going on. She thinks she knows. She thinks she knows that Jesus had been killed by Rome, specifically, on a cross. Yes, Jesus' own people handed him over to the Romans, but if you were killed in a Jewish execution, you would be stoned. It was the cross that the Romans used for people who posed a threat to their power. She thought she knew what was going on, that death was the final power in the world, and those who wielded the power of death, the power of the fist, the power of tyranny, were those who had to be most feared. She comes to the tomb, and now something is different than she expected. The tomb is open. Immediately, she comes to the conclusion that would be logical according to her understanding of the world, right? That someone has robbed the grave. Someone has taken Jesus' body away. So she runs to Peter and the beloved disciple, and she tells them somebody has taken Jesus away. And Peter and the beloved disciple kind of have a race to the tomb. I don't know. This is a dream, you guys, or it's not a dream, but it feels like a dream. It's real, but these times feel like strange times. They run to the tomb. One of them gets there first. One of them goes in first. Whatever it is, they see inside the tomb, and the grave clothes are lying there, nicely folded up in their proper places. A grave robber would not have left the clothes there because clothes in those days were expensive. They did not have machines to make millions of t-shirts at a time like we do now. If you wanted clothes, you had to spin the thread, weave the fabric, and sew the fabric by hand. A grave robber would have taken those clothes and sold them. Not a grave robber. What's going on? Peter and the beloved disciple don't understand. They go home. This is true about people in the Gospel of John. Throughout the Gospel of John, people come to understand who Jesus is by steps and increments. They grow bit by bit. They don't come to a flashing light of full understanding at once. This is the way we are as well. We go through our lives and we grow and we change. Our journey with God is a journey of discovery and new wonder throughout our whole lives and even into eternity. There's always something new to find out, something new to see. They don't get it. Mary stands outside the tomb weeping. And she looks into the tomb, and now there are two angels in the tomb. Where'd they come from? There wasn't anybody in there before. What? And the angels say, "Woman, why are you weeping?" She turns around. There's Jesus. But she doesn't recognize him. She still thinks that Jesus is dead. She has even forgotten that Jesus had talked about rising from the dead, just like I forgot about tying a tie because everything's all higgledy-piggledy and whoopty-whoopty and everything's upside down. We forget things when we're confused, even when it's a happy confusion, which it wasn't at this point for her. She thinks Jesus is dead. This is understandable for two reasons. First of all, we human beings have a great deal of experience with death, and by and large, people do not come back when they die. And when they do, it's really creepy, okay? So, no. Secondly, we human beings, we kind of like to have our preconceived notions confirmed. If we have an opinion or an idea that we have about the world, about somebody, or about life in general, we will tend to see and emphasize those bits of evidence that will confirm our opinions and prove that we were right all along, right? And we will tend to deny and forget and dismiss and diminish the evidence and events that would seem to call us to change our way of looking at the world or our attitude or whatever. We generally will do that because we do not like to be reminded that we are mortal and tiny and we don't know everything. We do not like to be proven wrong. We don't like to be shown that we are not God after all. So she still thinks Jesus is dead, and she assumes that Jesus is the gardener. She doesn't recognize him. Jesus says, "Woman, why are you weeping? Whom do you seek?" She says, "Sir, if you have taken him away, show me where you have laid him, and I will go and get him." She's still looking for his body. We all grow, and she has not understood yet. And then Jesus says her name, Mary. He speaks to her as a person now, as a real human being. And that's when she sees him. You know, because I could stand up here and I could talk till I'm blue in the face. But if we don't have a relationship, if you can't trust me, or if we can't trust each other, if I do not speak to the places in your mind and your soul where you are connected with that which gives you life, those places in our lives and in our times when we feel joy and happiness and love and peace, if we cannot speak to those times, we will not change. If we cannot speak to one another's homes, our deepest being, then we can't change. But Jesus comes to her as a person and calls her name, just like Jesus calls you by name every single day and will call you by name someday when he calls you out of the grave. Jesus calls us by name and sees us as real people, persons. And then she recognizes him. Then she sees him. Now, she doesn't fully understand what's going on yet. She has learned something new, but she doesn't quite understand what is going on yet. And that is the way it is for us human beings. We learn step by step and piece by piece. For example, when I got married, I knew that I would have to listen to my wife. I knew that. Yeah, and then I learned. No, man, you got to listen. Really. Sit down. Don't just sit around and let her finish talking and then you start again. No, you got to hear what she's saying. And don't just be formulating how she is wrong and you are right and how your way of looking at things and what you need to do, what you think we need to do is the right way. No, man, sit down and figure out what it feels like to be her in this situation. She's got to do the same thing. This is the key of any family and any community. Check your ego at the door and solve the problems together. Whew. I knew that raising children would be a challenge. Oh boy. It was one of the hardest and most exhausting things I've ever done in my life. Also a fantastic adventure. An adventure of wonder and beauty, really. And one more thing about being married that I learned that I'm going to share with you. You can write this down because this is important. You ready? Get ready. Don't forget her birthday. Oh my God. Just don't. Don't forget her birthday. All right. We learn. Even when we're walking in a time and a place when we have situations in our lives which reflect the glory of God that are beautiful and powerful, we don't know what we're doing. Anybody who says, I'm not ready to get married, I'm not ready to have children, welcome to the human race, everybody. And we don't have to be married to require listening, to require effort, to require remembering people's birthdays. We can have families of friends. We can have our own single life. We can have families of relatives. And we still need to grow and to learn because those are just as much reflections of the glory of God as a marriage. Mary doesn't quite understand yet. She says, Rabboni, which is a wild thing for her to say. It means teacher. Jesus is the teacher who has brought her together with the other disciples, and they have this family. They have a connection. They have an intimacy. They have a trust. They have laughter and joy. They have beauty together, and he is the teacher. This is even more radical because in those days, women did not have rabbis. Well, they had rabbis, but they were not allowed into the rabbinic schools. If Mary calls Jesus rabbi, teacher, that means that he is her teacher. If you were a woman in Jesus' day, yes, your mother would teach you and your sisters would teach you the important, necessary, and honorable tasks of cooking and cleaning and keeping the house as it should be. But you did not learn theology. And you did not learn scripture in the rabbinic schools. That was for men. And for Jesus to be Mary's teacher, that was outrageous. That was unheard of. this family connection, this home she had found to open her mind in ways that she had not imagined before. Teacher, she says to him. Yes. But Jesus is more than a teacher. Jesus is more than just our teacher, which he is a teacher. He's our teacher, but he is more than a teacher. He is the Word made flesh. He is the embodiment of God's presence on earth. So Jesus says, do not hang on to me, which I would suggest would imply that she is not to hang on to him as he was before, the beloved teacher. Yes, that, but more than that, he is the Son of God. So he says, go to my brothers and tell them that I am going to my Father and your Father, my God and your God. So Jesus, as the Son of God, is a part of a family between God and himself. And there is, as is beautiful, our beautiful times of family. No family is perfect. This doesn't happen all the time in any family. But as is beautiful in families, there is laughter and joy and peace and hope and love between God and Jesus. Is now that relationship, that family has opened up and embraced us. So that we are a part of the glory that is reflected in our good times. We are a part of the divine family. So nowadays, every once in a while, Thon and I will go for a walk in the afternoon on a nice day. And we will watch ridiculous British comedy at night. And we will worry about politics and make fun of politics. I'm the one that worries. She's the one that makes fun. And we'll share the news about the kids. We are not a perfect family by any stretch of the imagination. But God is close. And death is not the final power in the universe. The love of God is the final power in the universe. So welcome to the resurrection, people. Welcome home.